Erik Cole, Canes legend, best beard in the game, joining us now.
Whoa, look at that beard.
Nah,
Looks
it's
good.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Erik Cole,
Playoff.
it's playoff time. It's always playoff time for you. What are you talking about? I saw you like at a Duke basketball game. You had the beard in full effect, man.
Yeah, that's to protect this the money maker when I had.
All right, question though. I think we've discussed this. I can't remember. Is Rod Brindamore capable of growing a playoff beard, or is he just opt out?
He is not.
Okay, I just wanted to double check on that one. All right, man. So Game 5 tonight. This Canes jersey series is a little bit different than the Canes jersey series that you were used to back in 02, 06, or 09 when you came back. So what have you seen so far? What's impressed you about the Canes?
Well, I think obviously, the penalty kill's been great, and the power plays continued to do well. That's been a real big, asset for the team throughout the first two rounds, really. So I think everyone expected it to be kind of a fast pace, up and down. Jersey likes to play a fast game as well. So I think it's kind of lived up to what everyone expected it to be. I think that both games being lopsided victories in New Jersey was maybe a little surprising. But I think that, Carolina just, we gave up an early goal again, but, but they were able to weather the rest of that first 10-minute storm. Like anytime you're going on the road, that's always what you talk about. You gotta weather that first 10-minute storm where the crowd's into it and the other team's just feeding off of their energy and the atmosphere, and you almost want to try and slow that game down a little bit and take the crowd out of it. And I think Carolina eventually got there, and then obviously with Marty's goal late there, that really settled them in. And then what a great second period that they had. Like they were hard on the forecheck and creating turnovers, and that's their game. When they're doing that, they're a very, very tough team to play against.
Erik, I know the guys that were the leaders on your team: Glenn Wesley, Rod Brindamore, Ron Francis. And I remember, if I heard it once, I heard it 9 million times. You can't get too high, can't get too low. You got to stay on the even keel. You got to pay attention to today. Focus on this game. Focus on this shift. Yes, I got that part. Yes. However, as a player, did you ever allow yourself to look at the rest of the bracket, to look at the rest of everything else that was going on, and maybe think to yourself, you know what? We can win this thing.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's only been kind of 2 times in the playoffs where I let my mind wander a little bit. One time was actually Paul Maurice pointed it out to our group in that first round series against the Devils, and he basically told us, he's like, pay attention to what's going on. He's like, because the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed are about to get knocked out. And he's like this is our chance, this is our moment, like we need to take advantage of it. And we were able to close out New Jersey, and now all of a sudden we're the top team in the East. So that was maybe one instance, and the only other time I let myself wander like that was after we won Game 1 in Detroit that same season.
Ooh.
No more wandering.
We were sitting on the bus. It was the bus ride back to the hotel, and I was like, man, we're 3 away from this thing. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
You were like, there's a K in Cole. Like, Erik Cole with a K.
We're in one. And,
oh man.
That was the last time I ever.
Smart man. Hey, you bring up Paul Maurice. You played for Mo, and Joe and I were just talking before about it. Kind of took him to leave North Carolina to get the respect that he has been deserved, and all of the different stops that he's had, and the success he's having right now with the Panthers. I know. How do you look at the Panthers right now, and how do you see how he's changed, or perhaps some of his style has changed? And I know he was not warm and cuddly, even though he was a young guy coaching, and he was also a guy who was unbelievable with the media. I know it was a little bit different as a player.
Well, I think with Mo, I always enjoyed him because you always knew where you stood with him. And he was always very, very direct with where he felt your game was at. And then when it came to, the motivating and like the X's and O's, he was very, very good at that as well. So for me, I really enjoyed playing for Paul. I am not surprised one bit that he's gone on to have successful coaching stints with other organizations, and certainly not surprised at all. I think actually a former teammate from that '09 team when Boston went down in Game 7, and somebody texted me, was like, Mo's seen that one before, referencing Scotty Walker goal. So, I'm not surprised whatsoever. I know that, they're a team that they went through some adversity, this season, and they had some turnover in the off season. So, to see them, you feel like a world beater when you knock off the #1 seed. So it's no surprise that they, walk into Toronto and take 2 there right away, then, win Game 3 at home. Obviously their last game was a little bit, shaky, I'll say. But I mean, you got to expect pushback. Like, those guys get paid too, so they also want to win.
That was
Erik
the whole
Cole
fiction game. Don't worry.
Yeah. Erik Cole hanging out with us here.
Not
Ovies
surprised.
and Giglio. Actually, one thing, and again, Joe and I were talking about right now, fans are understandably annoyed by the national coverage now that everything's shifted to national coverage on ESPN and Turner. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't get too wrapped up in it, but I understand where fans are coming from. Do you give a crap about any of that stuff? Because if I remember correctly, 05, 06, you guys are coming out of the lockout, rules changes. You clearly took advantage of it. But there was always this dismissive, like, wait till the playoffs, or it's Carolina. They have no experience. Once they get to the playoffs, things will get tight. Somebody will take care of it. So did you pay attention to any of those types of things about respect, or did it fuel you at all?
I think honestly, like, it was more in like the preseason, and then even throughout the year, it was a little insulting at times.
Mm-hmm.
So we just use that as motivation in the locker room. I think even just for me personally, throughout my playing career, like, tell me I can't do something, and
Right.
chances are I'm going to prove you wrong. So it's for me, that was always just, it was another log on the fire for me. And I think especially in that '05, '06 year, where we felt like we had a really, really good team. We were coming in with the new rules, and everyone was trying to, navigate that a bit, but it opened up so much ice, especially for me personally, but for a lot of our players, and for our up tempo, north south game that we wanted to play. Like, we wanted to, get the puck into the offensive zone as fast as we could and just start rattling teams around and hold on to the puck, and, spread the zone, use the entire offensive zone. And yeah, we certainly took full advantage of it. I mean, if you remember that year, I mean, we were coming out of the lockout, and we didn't really.
21. Weren't you like 21 points clear of Tampa in that year?
What's that?
Weren't you like 21 points or 20 some odd points clear of Tampa in the division with how you guys just ran the table?
I think
Something like that.
It got locked up early, like almost too early, but
Right.
because then, all of a sudden you're not playing some of those meaningful games, like.
Right.
But no, it was. I think in that season, when we completed that first 9-game win streak, that was when I think all of us in the room were like, yeah, we're doing this. Like this is like we're for real. And now we're just gonna keep going. And we had a pretty good December, but then we had the best, at that time, like the best month in franchise history in January. We had a Doug Weight, and it was like, yeah, like we're we're cup contenders now. Like and I don't think that a lot of people outside the room believed it yet at that point. But I think
Mhm.
when your general manager goes out and adds a player of that caliber and of that respect level from his peers, it says something, and it's a boost of confidence, for every player on the roster.
About
I have
that.
two. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say real quick on that, Joe. Sorry, because this is a conversation Giglio and I had with Tom Dundon back at the outdoor game when Canes had cap space approaching the trade deadline, and I kept going back to '06. Like, look, you signal to the room, like you said, we're in, so we're going to go add. Canes didn't really do that. Now, Ghost of Spare has been an unbelievable addition for the Canes so far, but I guess there's another way to signal to the room. Hey, we like this group. It's a veteran group. We think we can do that if everybody knows their roles and steps up and everything else. And I guess we're kind of seeing that, whether it's Nate just kind of continuing his season or even a guy like Martinook who's getting rewarded in this series for all the stuff that he does.
Yeah, I think in that instance, it. I mean, it's not like trades weren't like attempted or tried to be made.
Sure,
You
sure.
scenario where Patch is going to be coming back into the lineup, so you're excited about adding him, but then all of a sudden you lose both he and Svetch, and then it's like, oh man, like. But at the same time, like you don't want to ever like jeopardize the future and the foundation that we have now in terms of the organizational depth. Like like Carolina's organizational depth right now is probably close to as good as it's ever been, and you want to protect that, and being able to continue on the path where you're each year with a lot of these younger players that have been here, you're expecting them to take the next step, and you're expecting them to progress and get to that level that your scouting staff always thought this is the player that they should become. And you have to allow them that space and that time to mature. And I think that that's also another way of looking at it.
I put together a yellow pad chart today of Game 5 opportunities for the Carolina Hurricanes to close out series. You just happen to play in 4 of those games. Is it human nature to think, oh well, we're coming home, we're gonna win, we'll just roll out the puck and lace up the skates and close this thing out, or what is the mindset there that you kind of have to fight against as a player?
I think it's being able to play with a little bit of that like controlled like aggression, basically controlled and enthusiasm. Yeah, you almost have to dial back a little bit of like your like adrenaline and your emotion that you're going to be like feeding off of the crowd. I mean, when this time of year especially, you're pulling into the parking lot and there's already a bunch of fans out there tailgating, and then the atmosphere inside the arena, prior to coming out for the national anthem, like you feel it, you see it. I mean, it's there. So I think that, Carolina has to take full advantage of being on home ice, take full advantage of the enthusiasm from our great fans. And you almost, I think the way we word it a lot of times in the locker room is you try and break their will. You want to put the doubt in their mind, or you want to make them feel like, man, you know what, this is just, you know, too high a mountain to climb. Like or it's just, or it's, it's not our year. It's kind of, like, I mean, you're trying to end a team season, so it's
Yeah.
always the toughest game to win. And I think that, if you just mentally kind of take it one shift at a time, win your battles, have your compete level as high as possible. Just focus on your one-on-ones. Like I always just used to, you pick a guy on the other side and you're like, I'm not going to let him beat me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's every little battle. It was, for me, like, especially in the years I played with Roddy, where, face-offs aren't always won by the centerman. And he's like, you learn really early playing with him where it's like, he's like, hey, if that puck sits there, that's your puck. He's like, I was like,
Well, mess with my percentage.
Got it.
You screwed me.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. He's like, I won that draw, like right there for you to tap it back. Yeah. He's like, you messed up. So, it's just focusing on the little things and the details. And if you do that, you should be fine.
You mentioned ending someone's season. Was there, and one of the great traditions in sports is the handshake after the series ends. Was there ever a series where you did not want to shake someone's hand?
Yeah. 09 conference final. I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, Buffalo.
Was it Aaron Ward?
No. 09.
Oh no. 09 was, I'm getting my years confused. What happened
Pittsburgh.
in 09? Was it Pittsburgh?
Was it Jordan Stahl?
Because you guys got swept, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, after two 7-game series, I think, we kind of, the tank was running a little on E for us, like in that.
It wasn't the guy who broke your neck, was it?
Oh, there we go.
I was gonna say,
No,
I'm like,
not
wait a
him,
minute,
right?
wait a minute. Was it Orpik?
Somebody
Orpik
broke
was
your
on.
neck.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Orpik was on there.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense.
We haven't cursed this episode. If you'd like to throw one in there, we can. It's a thing.
No,
all this stuff runs together, man. It all runs together. It's crazy. Erik, we appreciate the time, man. Always good catching up. And we will talk to you later.
Yep. Say when.